season, but in playoffs came up big.
And interestingly, Honor Life Esports picked red side. You know, they obviously had a great win rate against T1 when they were on blue side in their previous matchup, but even so, when they've had selection, you'd expect it to go blue side. I mean, game one, they went blue side, but clearly think they have a better handle of things on this side, despite having just lost here and won that blue side map earlier. But I think it's kind of showing that even though they won that game one, I don't think you can really call that a convincing victory. And bans will follow the trend of the previous map. Exactly. Tom Kench here was the ban from Honor Life. They might just go for the center instead, because it was definitely a problem.
Oh, never mind. They are still just going to opt in. Feeling a little bit stubborn here as the center, obviously, going to be the first pick once again. Is it Zeka picking away the Corki that might be their answer into this one? Because it did feel like that was also a bit of a problem. That is Jinx just immediately locked in.
Now
the gate.
You can take away the Sejuani. This is going to give Keria the opportunity to lock this one up right now. We'll go into the Ornn because he doesn't want to get banned away. And I was thinking Zeka was going to play maybe a Yone here with this lock into the Sejuani, but it's an old favorite, the Silas. We talked about that narrow champion pool. Back then, this is one of his best picks. But they will lose the Thresh if they lock it. And so we'll then just leave that one to Delight here, who's had arguably the best Thresh we've seen of the season in an individual game.
You know, I feel like a hover like that, it's kind of showing, like, I'm not even sure if they'd want to play it, because I feel like hovering like that, you're like, oh, wouldn't Silas be great? You should ban it. You know, throw that one interest. I think the Thresh is essential, especially with the Ornn being picked on the other side. The safety net against the ult, very valuable in this situation. And they're really setting this one up to be a big Viper carry game. I imagine T1 will probably ban away the Rek'Sai in this situation. I'm not sure they'll throw a bone towards the Silas ban there. Maybe they'll consider banning away the Yone, which can obviously pair well with the Sejuani. Yeah, have to see.
I mean, there's a lot of other picks, too, to consider here. That Doran can play the Jax, for example, works extremely well with this Sejuani. The Renekton that's been pretty quiet in playoffs is another pick that works quite well. So the Talia is, in fact, banned instead, a more classic response to the Azir recently. Doesn't work as well with Sejuani as a lot of those other melee picks that have the permafrost synergy. But I do like how T1 have responded. They instantly get the Ornn, so that Keria has a pick to play here. It's going to be very relevant in the late game. It's Twisted Fate rather than the Rek'Sai is what T1 are concerned about here.
I feel like it's so difficult because if you pick Rek'Sai, Zeus is just going to go Zac again, and he looked perfectly fine in that matchup. But if you don't go the Rek'Sai, they might just pick it for T1, and are we confident Doran can match up for the same way Zeus just did? So a lot of things to figure out here. I do think at least with a Thresh on hand, you're a lot more comfortable into the Zac than you were last game, and you should be able to cut through it with the Jinx. Now, looking like they're going to lock in the Yone for Zeka once again. And now T1, a lot of junglers banned away. The Vine, since now taken away in the last rotation of bans, thinning out the pool. There is still that Viego open and available.
Sin, also a very strong pick, I feel, with this composition. The Viego, though, worked very well for them last game around with this slow Senna comp. It looks like he's looking towards it once again. Problem is, it is a very squishy jungler, and against this Jinx composition and Yone and all the CC, if he ends up getting caught first in a team fight, Jinx gets excited. Viper does have so much agency, so double-edged sword here that he'll be wielding in this one with how squishy our favorite Paperman can be. And the final pick here to come through is going to be the blind pick.
Yeah, or it's going to be an Ornn top lane. I mean, there are theoretically a few options that they can go for. With an Aatrox lock-in, that is certainly looking a little bit like a Zeus. Zeus special will be K'Sante in the end.
Yeah, so wanting to bulk out the front line a bit here, although I think Honor Life have better tools for it. You know, I feel like in a lot of minds, Rek'Sai would make sense here, but they are lacking AP damage. Gwen is good into K'Sante. It was picked as that old school counter and would stack up well with the Sejuani. So they will lock that in. A lot of power to cut through these tanks. And also it means you're not dealing with a full armor K'Sante and Ornn, which I think is very important.
My fear for T1 in this competition, I think on paper, you just remove the right side of your screen and you'll get only a T1 strap. Fantastic wrap. Great scaling. Ornament's going to be fantastic. You have front to back that's amazing. Gumayusi has so much agency. But in the early game, I look at what Peanut can do with Gwen Yone. I look at what Oner is going to be trying to accomplish, the fires he's going to be trying to put out here in this early game. He is going to have to level up massively, I think, going into this one. These are the types of games where Peanut has had Oner's number, when they have permafrost synergy in both solo lanes. And Oner's playing a squishier jungler, very fragile. And if he gets put behind early, then the rest of the map can also fall behind with him. I do think it played well. T1's draft, arguably superior But is a lot of this game going to be about the solo laners for Hanwha Life and what they can get done, what they can accomplish. And I think giving Doran the Gwen, Goran in this case, is a really great move in terms of the counter pick. He has fallen, though, in best of fives on this pick before.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about the Doran Gwen just stylistically, not necessarily with as much of a safety net as the celebration. I'm on TV. He's done it. But like I was saying, I think that, you know, Doran is going to be under a lot of pressure in this game to try and win out. A lot of late game security, but this time around Viper is on a crit Eddie carry that should be able to get stuff done. Resets versus resets. I think very even when it comes to the draft. Top of the rift for game 3. All right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. It is now a best of 3. Everything tied up between T1 and HLE.
You know, I'm just glad that we've had so many games this season where you have Sejuani and no one really good to stack it with. It's kind of like, you get things like Sejuani Azir, Sejuani Corki, and then you have like a top laner who's kind of whatever, sometimes even like a TF.
Yep.
It's nice to have like a top side where it's like, they both vibe hard with the Sejuani here. And especially there's a lot of champions, like if I'm playing Ornn or Cassante into these solo laners with Sejuani backing, definitely going to feel painful as the game goes on. I am interested though that it feels like even though the lane swap was a thing in game 1, like a Gwen being lane swapped against would be super punishing. But it appears like T1 haven't shown any intent to implement that strategy themselves, and Hanwha Life Esports haven't seen like they're too afraid of it either. So maybe just be, it came out game 1, it gave them an edge in the early game, but after that it's kind of been left at the door.
We know stylistically in Korea, a lot of teams have shied away from it. It has been more of an LPL, LEC thing, and so I think teams just aren't ready to pull that one out necessarily in a best of 5. Now, we did see it in game 1, and while it found success, it didn't necessarily lead to a win for Hanwha. It was clutch plays later on that ended up giving them the critical edge to win that one. As we could be looking at a world right now where T1 have a 2-0 lead in this series, had certain events not come to pass in game 1. I think a lot of fans would say that it should be a 2-0 lead right now for T1. As I think, you know, looking at this draft, I really think Doran and Zeka have to come up big, as we know that Viper will carry late game if he's given the opportunity. If they can set up those picks, get the Jinx excited. I'm never really worried about Viper's Jinx. I'm never worried about Delight's Thresh. But it's the inconsistencies we've often seen for Doran on this Gwen that have me the most worried for Hanwha Life.
Worried too. I think Keria back on a champion that he's very happy with, as well as Zeus and Doran just fighting one another here towards the top side of the map. Something that you do understand. But I think there are a lot of changes that have happened here in this game, and I think we have learned why Hanwha Life did decide to move back towards this red side as well. Even though the bans didn't change, and I was very worried after that, it looks like they have come in with some answers, which I think tells us that they are willing to fight once again here in this game and haven't got out of resources as far as figuring out a way through this series.
Yeah, I really like the bot lane setup because, you know, when you go for the center Ornn, as opposed to, you know, like things like the center Nord or the center Tom, it's a lot less lane pressure. We've kind of seen this before. In fact, against T1, when T1 went against Bro, the center Ornn was picked on them, and they went Kate Lux and stomped it in the ground very unceremoniously.
Yes.
But the fact that you have a Jinx Thresh, obviously a pairing that scales so well together, and you saw Viper being the one with lane priors, even had a chance to back off and pick up the call, it's like you're not really too worried about going to the later stages of the game, but you also still have an edge, which is a rare thing for a Jinx lane to necessarily have, especially when we have so many picks like Kalista and Varus in the meta.
Yeah, it is a pick that feels very Viper as a vision toggle.
Yeah.
It's going to be, of course, Peanut lurking here in the top side, trying to bait Zeus in. He's very aware. Good game sense here.
Yep. Manages to throw that ward down. Spots that Peanut is going back. It's a lot of valuable information, in fact, as Oner can have free reign here towards the bottom side. Decent amount of vision now put down by T1. Flame Chompers come in.
Last team,
be able to get out of the way.
Between these two, I feel like Peanut kind of had Oner's number throughout, but it feels like in this one, Oner's been pretty ahead of the curve. A lot of times we see Peanut doing, you know, the old shadow, stay out of vision, recall, just make sure you're there in case something breaks off. But we saw obviously in the earlier games when Oner was able to get that flank angle, able to come through on the back end of last game after Peanut had recalled. So that extra information obviously very valuable. We'll see if Oner can find an opportunity to make use of that.
And the next question is going to become, you know, when do we see the commitment to fights here for T1? Because this composition does have an Azir, so the ultimate there is going to be highly impactful in these first few dragons. But you're still running a Senna composition. Ornn, though, does kind of change the exchange quite a bit, because with the Ornn ultimate and the Azir ultimate, you can fight a little bit earlier and arguably better than the Sejuani ult is going to allow you, like we saw last game, because it can just be fight winning with the Emperor's Divide paired with it. T1 looking to start this dragon up already here, even with Zeka having a little bit of control mid lane. Peanut will come and suss this out, but he is on vision.
Yeah, T1 with some priority here towards his bottom side. We'll move up as 3. Try and answer this as Peanut pokes his head in. That is a decent searing charge, but Arctic Assault gets Peanut out of there, but now won't have that Q available. That will be the Drake going over to T1. First Mountain collected here for a composition with 2 tanks. That is scary as Needlework has come out here. Doran fighting against the Cassante and will be able to stay alive with that extra healing from the ultimate.
Yeah, looks a little bit scary for a moment there. You know, Doran's angle on the second ult wasn't that fantastic. There's definitely a matchup that the Gwen scales into, but even so, you do not want to be getting solo killed at this point by the Cassante. It would make your late game much harder to hit. And I think the big reason they were able to pick up that dragon so free, Zeka ended up getting chunked out pretty heavily, has TP back to lane, but obviously as much as we've seen Yone being that counter into Azir, it's definitely not something that you pick for the lane matchup where you can just get pressured out early on, but will eventually provide more threat. Now with that ultimate available, that's where really the pick starts to come online.
Yeah, as Delight.
Nice Bellows Breath there from Keria, pretty perfect. As Emperor's Divide is just going to push Zeka back. Ultimate now on cooldown though, and Teleport had just been invested here by Faker.
Yeah, same to be said of Zeka, who won't have TP either. And they will just chug that refillable and should be fine here. Not going to be any kill pressure, but Peanut has been relatively invisible in this early game, and this is one of the things about this comp that we were talking about is so good with these 2 melee solo lanes. Faker not under any pressure here, despite Peanut kind of hanging out in topside early. Didn't actually find anything. Zeus' game sense good enough, able to identify that Peanut was there, doesn't find himself in harm's way, and you know, we're suddenly going to, you know, the first dragon goes over to T1, we're hitting the 7-minute mark, everything is going swimmingly. You know, Senna hasn't been punished in any way. And yes, it is a call buy here for Viper, and he will cash in on that, and Hanwha will still have extremely strong mid-game team fights with this composition. But I think T1 really loving the position they're in so far.
No, I would agree. And I also think that, yes, it is a bit of a change-up as far as where the power is going to come from. Skirmishes, team fights, things like that, going to be something that Hanwha Life Esports are going to focus on in the mid-game. But with that Drake being picked up and the fact that T1 just have so much late-game insurance, it is absolutely disgusting. They've got not only all of the ornaments to come in from Keria, but they've also got Senna stacking things up, Faker on so much consistent damage on this Azir, and Oner's Viego is going to be a legitimate damage threat with 2 tanks.
Yeah, I just think the fights are going to end up being so explosive with the double reset mechanics on either side that I feel like when you get to that point, you know, it's really just going to come down to showdown, who can execute better on the day, because even though obviously you're going to have a lot of scaling elements on the side of T1, if Guma gets hit by Zeka's ult, I think that might just be game over in a fight, in a big one, so have to definitely be wary of that.
I think the same could be said as if, you know, Zeka whiffs his ult. Yeah. You see the Emperor's Divide counter engage with a strong front line. It can just as easily be a free win for Guma, who has, you know, so much range later on. Plus that extra healing we talked about earlier.
Yeah, that control ward actually surviving. Kind of big there. Unfortunately, Peanut not able to get over there, but is going to walk around it. As it's not going to quite work out. Let's see whether he can actually help Doran achieve a first blood here on this top side. 9 minutes in is what we're approaching.
There was a question mark ping on the tri-brush. I think Zeus is aware this could be a possibility.
Oh, Peanut, I believe, has slinked towards the north of this lane right now.
They just want Zeus to commit to a trade. Just burn some mobility aggressively.
Oh, there's the hook, and Delight throws out the lantern there as well. I don't think they'll require it as Zeus looks to try and charge up that dash. Just amazing. The ulti's going to go wide as well. The all-out to bring Zeus out of there, and he didn't even need Oner's help.
The massive outplay there from Zeus avoids everything. Just thank you for all your resources topside. I get out, I press ghost, easy peasy. Now he's putting the pressure on himself. We're going to shove this wave in. Huge dodges there.
You can see how precarious it was. Hanwha Life Esports really scared of getting ulted through a wall behind the tower. Always something you have to be aware of with the Cassante, but that you know, evasiveness to committing, I feel, ends up going in Zeus' favor. And once he dodged the Sejuani, there's really nothing to be done. If you have to get a melee range of him to stack up, he will just pop the ultimate.
Yeah, really beautifully played. Zeka is going to be able to get on top of Faker here. He does find a decent combo before he does rebind. And is the back actually going to come through there as Light unable to quite find the play? That could have been a kill. Kind of crazy. Gumayusi nerves of steel, as we can see.
We'll clear up some vision. It's been a relatively quiet game, you know, compared to our last two. Not so much the bloody. As we will have the comms here, but look, the box is committed here from Delight, gets the dash away, and then everything avoided, including the ultimate, which is the most critical part of this. And they see Oner here, and they're like, we gotta get out. HLE, no chance. You can hear the crowd as well, knowing how important that would have been for Doran to pick up a kill there.
Yep, and losing the play on the bot side as well is the cost of that play, so...
Full calm collected as well from T1. See whether they can secure this Drake at the same time. You can see Peanut making his way in from the south. As they do get the ward over, Faker will be able to move first here from mid. So let's see what Delight can actually get done here. Chain not quite going to connect, but there is the Ram. It's going to get called, gets a knockup only on to Delight right now, but as Oner goes down so incredibly low, Super Mega Death Rocket coming in, Dawning Shadow to try and keep them alive, and Doran is just dashing around with reckless abandon. The Drake goes to Harmor Life, and they manage to pick up Zeus. Emperor's Divide used just to get them the heck out of there. As what are you doing, mate?
Oh, I'm sorry, you know, I was focused on the fight, wasn't thinking about the Dragon. Doran there, you can see the plan from T1 was chain the CC onto the Gwen before Doran has a chance to do anything, but the follow-up wasn't there. And if you're not going to chain the CC, Doran can obviously just press W and disengage. They all end up a little bit clumped up, and Zeka finds a great angle to engage. It was really just a nice setup for Honor Life Esports. They'll take the Drake. The Soul, not going to be the most impactful, though.
I think that the problem with that exchange there from T1 is just the fear of committing with the Emperor's Divide to try to kill that enemy top laner who's teleported in. Doran is, we're going to have a bit of a fight over this. It's just that you don't know exactly the angle Zeka's going to take, which still ultimately was their demise there, and the Emperor's Divide is used so late just to secure the rest of the members retreating. Could have been even worse there for the side of T1. Just a great angle from Zeka, and it felt like a heavy committal until it was a half committal there onto Doran. Now has his Riftmaker online, is going to be a big threat in upcoming team fights. At the end of the day, when the dust settles, because it is that Chemtech Soul, the Dragon Spear isn't going to matter that much, but the kill here is going to be quite massive. As you can see, the timing of this is so perfect, but then Doran just gets away. There's no Emperor's Divide follow-up, and then the angle.
And the Chompers are so huge, they're actually stopping some of the follow-up from the melee members trying to go in. So, you know, credit to Viper for seeing his teammates TP come in, throwing the Chompers down preemptively, and I think being a big factor in saving Doran.
Yep, heads up play as well from T1 to know that once the Jinx gets excited, please get the heck out of there.
There's no way you win that fight after that kill goes over.
Yeah, they were instantly just turn on their heels, summon the wall of Sand Soldiers, and get the heck out of there. Try and minimize the losses. 2,000 gold is approximately the lead here, though, for Hummer Life Esports, as that was first blood onto Zeus in that fight. Kind of nutty, as we have a minute until the plates fall off.
Yeah, you are starting to see, though, farm advantages picked up. You know, you expect the Jinx to be up in farm compared to the melee on, but, like, there's pretty sizable CS lead in top and mid as well now. Honor Life Esports allocating these resources pretty well. Now, we will see them attempt maybe to make a play on a Zeka, but I think it's so dangerous when he has ult and flash.
Doran, of course, not having teleport here from the previous Dragon fight, but not going to commit.
Ooh, Peanut does move his way in, but Oner able to get himself out of there, and will be just fine. Peanut going to stop him one more time, as this is getting a little bit rough now. Zeka moving on over. There's the ulti. It does come on through. They dive on in. Emperor's Divide going to be avoided here by the Yone. But in comes Gumayusi. Over the wall goes Peanut, but he's once again met with another T1 member, and they are routed where they stand.
I mean, this is a huge overcommitment there, and there's a reason why Oner is going to back in that location and not feel too afraid. His ultimate there helps buffer him away. He still gets caught, of course, by Peanut's ultimate. It gives him a ton of distance there. The Emperor's Divide is going to be massive in turning this fight around, and it's just hard forcing when they don't need to, and this has kind of been the story of Hanwha Life in these last two games, is forcing fights here onto targets, but they don't have enough information. Look at the vision that they don't have. Anyone to the far left here of Oner. You've got to remember Faker is also here, and this is just a huge overextension.
I don't understand the sequencing, because Oner was one auto away from the passive being stacked, and then, you know, we saw Peanut opt to go for the ult. Like, Q in, get the final auto, stun, then ult if you want to kill him. if you're just going to throw the ult out, then back off if he ulted away. Like, they committed so much, and I feel like they could have just burned his ult and backed off, especially since they didn't have backup on the play. They are now looking for this Herald, though. So you want to move and try and follow up. Zeka does have TP.
Yeah, Doran has made it in. There is the teleport for the Oner. Zeus off on an angle, has a Mega Blast Cone to get himself into that front line exactly where he wants to be. Death Sentence goes wide, and now Doran into the mist has been a bit immune, but Gumayusi, he's not. The Oner dives on top of him. Super Mega Death Rocket, it is yet another fight. Started off with a Jinx getting excited as Oner not able to get his own reset. Great hook, but it's onto Zeus. That's not a priority target. And that movement speed for Viper is now wearing off. Oh, that Q. But it's a great catch from Delight. And Peanut's going to lock down that kill. Now Gumayusi running for the hills. Great cleanse. But it's not going to dodge a rocket. That is going to go into the back of his head, and T1 once again going to lose out on the fight. Good flash from Faker, but these death sentences are just magnetic.
Delight's Thresh has been so good in playoffs, and you look at this situation here for T1, and yeah, you trade kills, but it's never a trade up when Viper gets excited. With that death sentence connecting, he can follow up on such high range, gets excited again, and T1 never going to win that extended fight. Hanwha Life with a really nice front to back there, and it's, I feel, really telling of what we may see in the late game once the crit items are really finalized here. This is Viper just sitting on Kraken Slayer right now. Later on, a trade of picks like this could be even more devastating.
And I feel like it could have gone so much worse if Zeka had ult here. Like, he gets the double knockup, doesn't have ult to follow up. Guma could have just been dead there and then. Doesn't even get him. They isolate the Gwen. But the thing is, like, this is a 4-for-4. They could have just backed away from this situation, but Zeus goes hunting for more. And it's just so well played. This is kind of the Viper delight we were looking for in this series, delivering so well on this duo of picks, and then here, pushing forwards, Guma tries to cleanse but doesn't get it. And I just feel like the value they're getting on the back of these two picks is just massive.
Yeah, Sejuani value for Hanwha Life Esports cannot be overstated. And once again, this time Peanut having an even better performance than what we saw in game number one. I feel like he's much more present, maybe too present if we're going to include that play previously. But it's definitely better to go that direction than it is the direction of passivity, I think, especially when you have a composition like this put together that thrives in the chaos. See whether they can keep it up, though, because, of course, this series is not necessarily one that has been predictable. Outside of, I guess, the last game, game one taught us anything. It's just expect the unexpected. Zeus going to dive out of the brush, and Zeka seems like he's just not too worried about the whole situation at all.
I will say, and I think we can all pretty confidently say this is not either of these teams' peak performance we've seen in playoffs just yet. I think T1 is looking a lot better than they did in their last two series, but I don't think this is necessarily their best, as nerves are so high. You know, it'd be T1 breaking records here if they go to another finals. Hanwha, first finals for the org, and new finals for us as well. Of course, excluding the Rocks Tigers. And, you know, there's so much on the line here, and we are seeing some quick and hasty decision-making.
Yeah. Definitely, you know, it feels like sometimes a lot of back and forth. It feels like one team makes a questionable decision than the other team does, but I think one thing to be said is that they are very quick to punish when these mistakes do come out.
This really looks like these teams are very evenly matched as well, just on the neutral play around the map. So I think both of them feeling like they need to make like that play to get to that next level, that unexpected play that could possibly just create that edge. That might be throwing Shelly down here towards this top side as Zeus deals with the minion wave really nicely. The ulti is buffered and it's thrown out by Zeus as well. So he's not going to die and not going to be able to catch the Oner as T1 looks to go for the counterpunch here in mid lane. Teleport to come through from Doran to make sure that they are able to hold on to that, and they will be able to do so. Still getting a teleport, big news.
Yeah, ends up being pretty favorable. The fact that the Herald was being top and you don't even immediately get the tower, you know, Zeus doing a good job of dealing with the pressure there. You do see them moving over to capitalize, so now with this pressure on the top side,
yeah, Gumayusi actually sticking around for a little bit longer than he needs to as the Permafrost and Super Mega Death Rocket to give the kill to Viper.
So that's a play you make if you have Cleanse, and perhaps a Thresh on your team to lantern you out, but the Cleanse was a few seconds away, and you don't have the safety net to get you out of that situation.
Oh, and they're just pushing Keria out as well here. Viper is already so big, and went for the last Whisper second here. LDR are going to be finished soon. You have to imagine with that additional Achilles backing now, and that's going to make breaking through this tank line, the Ornn, and this K'Sante so much easier. Love it as a second item choice here with the Kraken Slayer. And Guma tries to clear this ward here, sees Peanut, and he does not have cleanse, as you mentioned. You can see it there on the bar at the bottom of the screen. It's so easy to follow up. The kill going to Viper is well worth his ultimate. And this is a really nice pick here. Now, no objective up just yet. There's no capitalization here for Hanwha. It's just an exchange of gold here, really, as this game is still so close.
Yeah, but it is now the LDR, and I feel like if I'm a tank, if I'm in Zeus or Keria's position, and I look at the enemy team, and there's a Gwen, and there's a Yone with Blade and King, and then a Jinx with Kraken Slayer LDR, I'm not feeling like a tank anymore.
No.
Realistically, they're very much...
Do you just go back and build a BF sword at that point?
What about...
Like, I'm just not even going to try.
What about Kraken Slayer Viego?
I mean...
Paperman, he's not so tanky, is he?
No, that's true. So he's going to benefit from the fact that Hanwha Life Esports have indexed so hard into counter-tank. But I love it, because this is a reaction from Hanwha Life Esports about not being able to deal with tanks at all in the previous game.
They just double TP. They know Doran doesn't have TP. They just double TP to start it. This is a wild attempt, but it's going down fast.
Yeah. The control ward in the back of the pit is going to be taken down, but it does give Hanwha Life Esports full information. Hook now going to come on through. Flame Chompers go down. They do manage to secure the Baron, but can they find the fight as they split the Red Sea? As in goes the Yone, finds absolutely no one. Double knock up from Keria is fantastic, and they're on top of Viper in an instant. Double kill for Faker, and this is on top of the Baron they've already taken. Hanwha Life Esports just caught napping.
And this is how you know, I mean, Faker ends up picking up the kills here, but you know this is a Faker call. This is his experience. They know they're tracking the teleport on Doran. He's not there, and T1 make these calls all the time. It's a trademark T1 moment. 20-minute Baron, set up for it, force them into a poor fight, and Peanut not able to get anything, no steal there, and then Zeka decides, instead of saying, oh, we have to cut our losses here, maybe leave the Gwen on the side and just try to defend, they hard commit, and his ultimate, as you mentioned, parts the blue sea here essentially.
Yeah, sorry, blue sea. It was red on
they're red-colored jerseys.
It ended up being a double smite there. Keria had the summoner spell, so there was no chance of Peanut stealing.
Yeah.
They had complete confidence the 50-50 wasn't going to come through.
And the horn that comes through the call, the Forge God completely denies the right side of the fight as Faker follows up with the Emperor's Divide. A beautiful Baron take for T1.
Absolutely gorgeously played. They'll now move over, even out the dragon count as well. The kill count actually just evened out there by T1, but I feel like it is so much more. The amount that they're going to be able to pick up off the back of this one, gigantic already. The outer ring has been removed. 2 turret the lead for T1. And that may have just been the straw that breaks the metaphorical camel's back here. Yeah, I mean, in this one.
The map control that you get with this is more valuable than the gold you get from the team fight. They get both. And this means that it's so difficult now for Hanwha Life to set up for objectives. This is Chemtech Soul. So, you know, they're not going to feel too horrible about that. They can sit back and farm a decent amount here for Viper to get that third item online. But it means that Gwen is not a side threat. She hasn't really been this entire game and was abused because she didn't have teleport in the last fight. That Baron attempt ends up coming successfully through here for T1. And now as Hanwha, you're just kind of sitting on your hands here for a little while. Not really able to engage or flank with no vision, no teleport wards for Zeka.
Yeah, they do have the teleport, so there's at least that. He can teleport onto the ward or something like that. They get a nice knock up onto Doran, but he's just barely inside the mist. They do get the Glacial Prisoners Keria. They have stepped too far forward. That is a lot of CC, but he just baited them in. And then the ram comes down. Viper trying to dodge, but he's going to get thrown back into the waiting arms of T1. It's more kills for the god of the mid lane, and T1, they're looking to take more.
This feels like Hanwha Life Esports aren't prepared. T1 firing on all cylinders. They're the ones setting the pace of the game. Where is Zeka in that fight? They're just not present. It feels like they've kind of, after game 2, just fallen out of control. And T1, they are driving the pace of this game, driving the pace of the series, and looking to end here and now.
Yeah, and frankly, after the beginning of game 1, is Zeka here not going to get anything done with this.
Yeah, Doran, he's inside his mist, and he will be able to at least protect this Nexus turret for now. 23 minutes into the game, so it is pretty difficult to push Nexus turrets.
You look at that top fight, and there's no great flank angle for Zeka. There's no way to engage except to just brute force it, and they're trying to, once again, just like they did in game 2, oftentimes force it into a tank here that is itemizing its support, yes, on the Ornn, but he's very tanky. And the idea here is if we burst him down, if we kill him, Viper pops off. If Viper gets excited, we can actually chase down these kills. We can win this fight. And it's the knife's edge that T1 walk here with Keria. He's super low, gets ulted here. They just kite him back, and this is unfortunately for Peanut. Big overextension. Zeka not able to do anything in this, not present at all. And it's just a really easy cleanup from here. If you get that kill onto Keria, maybe you have a prayer in the fight, but he lives.
You know, and the Yone teleport was so late as well.
So late. It's like, if you're going to commit to that play, it's very clear they thought, oh, Keria's overextended, we'll just kill Keria and disengage from the play. But if you're going to commit to that play, you should go all in. You should be like, okay, Zeka, TP now. We're trying to kill Keria. Zeka could come in. There was a ward near the red buff where he could have come in on a side angle, finished the kill, and provided some pressure. I just think Honor Life Esports aren't respecting T1 in this situation, and T1 are really just finding any window to punish them, and now the gold lead is blown up to 4,000.
Yeah, it's not, you know, completely game-breaking. The Ram is going to come on down. Doran even hit by that one. Does have to put down the miss to make sure that he survives. As Keria once again just soaking every button he can find. Peanut's ultimate now on cooldown, which is a big one for trying to get these resets in order. Viper turns up into the team fight. Let's see whether Hummer Life Esports can stand their ground here on this inner turret on the bottom side of the map. Hook is actually going to connect, but Zeus just does not care about it. They've got two tanks that can eat CC, as Oner isn't one of them.
You know, Delight's hitting a lot of hooks, but not many
no
really followed up on. Not really any where they're like, okay, this is actually our go time.
It's just the press W and I'm fine composition here from T1.
There's so much disengage here for T1 if Zeka ults in to try to follow up on the Viego. He just is going to get instantly popped. The fact that Faker can sit back here with Emperor's Divine and Flash is so horrifying.
Another hook this time, it's onto Faker. He finds the playback as well, but the sands can be shifted. And Faker is going to be all right. I'm really excited because Delight's landing so many of these great hooks.
I feel like the only person they would want to go on is Guma, but Guma has cleanse. So even if he does hit a hook on Guma, it gets cleansed. They're probably not going to go in on it. So the fact he hit two hooks onto Faker in that passage of play, and neither of them was the signal to go, just shows how rough the state of the game is for them now.
And how powerful Baron is into a composition like this that doesn't have amazing wave clear outside of the Gwen, who wants to be trying to deal with this topside wave, the super minions coming through. It's really easy for T1 to just carefully siege. Leandri's Torment upgraded here with the ornament, right? So you got the Jack Show's upgrade, and T1 just gets stronger from here. The Senna gets scarier and scarier to deal with, and this Cassante wasn't put down in lane, has a bounty right now, is also being such a big threat. Here you go, extra attack damage 60, the extra range here is gonna get bigger and bigger with 80 stacks online here for Guma already. Hanwha Life need picks, and they need to secure the elimination. Hooks alone won't get it done. They need to fight on their terms with Zeka having a big ultimate, but he's been so invisible in these fights because T1 have just never allowed him any flank angles. Look at the map, there's no wards, there's no teleport flanks for Zeka as his TP comes back online, and Faker can just solo this Baron with the upgraded Leandris.
Yep, the Dragon is not going to be long for this world, Dragon. As Hummer Life Esports, they definitely need to be towards that Baron, like you were talking about, Wolf. That is exactly where they are. Drake is going to be secured. That is going to be sole point. Not exactly end of the world losing that here, but T1 just have all of the control absolutely everywhere. With the fact that the top door is open here for Hummer Life, and they are just really in a rough spot.
You're going to be so scared, because if Keria ends up being able to rotate Smite again, and the double Smite is there for T1, it's going to be so hard to steal a Baron. You're going to have to commit TPs if you've got, like, Yone in a side lane. You can see now they're actually just not putting anyone bot because they're so afraid of this. But if you end up burning TPs, then we're going to repeat of the previous Baron. Really, Honor Life Esports have to work it out of them trying to prevent this objective from being taken, but T1 are just waiting for their window, waiting for the opportunity.
Keria's positioning so good here, and you know, Oner's not really in danger at all. Look at the lack of vision here, trying to identify where the best target is. Peanut does have flash.
So one Smite, so don't have to threat the double Smite. I think it still needs a while before you can rotate it through again.
T1 playing very respectfully, making sure that they're not going to overstep, not giving Hummer Life Esports a way back into the game, and not allowing a repeat of game number one. I imagine there's a lot of T1 fans out there that are very happy about that approach to this game, because it wasn't exactly the cleanest then. This time, certainly looking a whole lot better as Oner looking to come over, clear out some vision, and Peanut going for that reset angle. Put a few extra items together, as we can see here, about 2.5. But that is going to be mirrored pretty perfectly here by Oner right now. 3 items for both of these tanks, 3.5 for Keria, who has so much money. Even if he has been Flame Horizoned by the Jinx, it just doesn't really matter at all. Because Viper, he's only got 3 items himself. The Infinity Edge is going to be really important in this fight. As T1, they will find Delight here as they round the corner. Zeka's not here, he's gonna have to teleport in very likely. He doesn't have a ton of time. Yep, they do have information that this is going down. Mega Scryer is going to come on in there. Keria doesn't have the Smite available. as Control Ward will go down. Ornhorn sounds here as they look for the turn. Knockup is going to land, but it's onto Zeka. It's not Viper this time, but they have now split up Homolife Esports. Haven't quite been able to find the engagers. Doran, not exactly an optimal target, as he does get into his mist. Does have some immunity, as they say.
Looks like we might just rinse and repeat here, set up for another start on this Dragon, because there's no vision for Hanwha. This brush, so scary. Look at Peanut skirting around the edge.
Yeah, the multi-man knockups that can come on through here as the hook is going to connect. Keria breaks his rock at the last second.
Yeah, great Bellows Breath there. Knows he can just walk into chain range there of the Death Sentence and just walk it off. So many, such a tanky frontline, and that fact that he could just become unstoppable makes it really tough to engage onto him. He's one of those tanks that's just never going to be broken. You have that plus the Cassante, who also has his own unstoppable. You can't get that pick on the tank to then get the reset for the Jinx to then pop off. If it's just Keria and Zeus is rotating that unstoppable constantly.
See a really big wave actually stacked up in the bot lane that Homolife Esports just aren't dealing with while they're waiting over here. The waves are in favor of T1. Viper actually backed, so...
He did. I wonder what he was actually going back for. As the Super Mega Death Rocket comes on in, it just sails over the top of the Baron as T1 do back away. But you can see this gigantic wave that you were talking about is going to crash into that bottom inhibitor turret. T1 running out of wards, I believe, something like that, just making sure that they go back, get as strong as they possibly can be. And kind of the whole passage of play there on a knife's edge between both of these teams. No one really able to commit to getting any big advantage.
Yeah, you can see Homolife are really cautious about actually committing someone to the side lane, because if you end up doing that and being the TP, then we saw earlier how much you can be punished for lack of the resource. So they kind of just hung around. It did mean they missed out on a lot of side wave golden experience, but at the end of the day, they didn't let the Baron get taken. Dragon spawned in a minute, which they can obviously pull them towards.
Oh, that's a little bit scary, although it was there. So he's not too worried about it. T1 all grouped up once again as the ramp not actually going to connect. Keria going to be interrupted on that one.
Lights flash at least.
Yeah, thankfully they do have one other GOAT on the team. Not going to have another one for this fight coming out of Beyond.
I feel like Delight's doing a really good job of fishing for hooks, but the problem is if he's on the front line, he's the person who can't be Lantern, so he ends up losing his flash there. If Peanut's the one who's like stepping forwards and the Lantern can be thrown, chances are if the enemy team throw out some abilities, you only lose that cooldown, you don't have to burn anything more, but now Delight being flashless when he's often the one stepping up to secure vision when T1 have been starting Baron, I think this might be the signal for them to make a pick.
With IE available here, it has been for a while for Viper. I mean, he does so much damage if he can get that first reset and get excited. I think T1 playing so respectfully around one pick and they probably lose the fight. So even though it often looks like T1 have a really nice angle to engage or Emperor's Divide, if one target gets picked, if Delight is able to set that hook up into a Sejuani ult or vice versa, Viper gets a kill, they almost never win those, even with late game Senna here. Does now have the upgrade of opportunity though. And I mean, T1 just getting stronger and stronger by the moment. They can stall this game out. It favors them, especially when Doran's not able to side lane.
Yeah, just finished Rabadons as well for Faker, teleport back in on that, so.
And we do have Zeka taking down this Drake, so that's going to even things out as far as Dragons are concerned, if he stays on it. Does have teleport, can join this fight at a moment's notice as T1, they have got this Baron down extraordinarily low. I think it's actually going to be taken this time, never mind. They are going to turn the big teleport as Emperor's Divide, going to be flashed out of the ulti, avoided once again, as Zeka also gets himself out of trouble. Doran going golden, but he is so incredibly low and will be taken out. The hook comes in and there is another Ram to come down. Peanut flashing away, and this time the Searing Charge is not going to do it, but Delight is not going to be, look at the double knockup, is gigantic from Zeka, who once again drifts away from the fight. But Homolife Esports have lost too much, and T1 have lost no one.
They lost no one, no kill for Viper, no reset to come through. And it was so close there. The angle for Zeka, he had it, but he whiffs it. Faker mistimes the ultimate, but Zeka's not able to follow up with anything there. And it's not a trade. We've seen so many of the trades go Homolife's way. It's 1-for-1. Viper lives.
Oh, Peanut possibly engaged on here as Jonas Strong is giving us the full zoom. That is massive. The snare is Zeka going to be taken out at the same time as the Baron. Gumayusi with the fancy moves, and T1 are going to march up the mid lane.
And now without the Yone, who has been that threat on the back line, every time we've seen Guma in trouble, it's usually been Zeka, the one providing the threat. Homolife Esports in a much worse position to try and fight this off. I think they just have to give up the mid inhib, but their top inhib is open, so this could just be double inhib for T1 before Zeka's even back up.
Whoa, Doran not immune. I can confirm, taking a lot of damage here from Faker with that Leandri's anguish. And T1 going to take their first Nexus turret that was dead in a blink of an eye.
One
They
cannon
still
minion
in
here.
position, yeah.
Still allowing them to continue to put the pressure on. They can take out this inhibitor here in top side. 2 inhibs down, waiting for that next wave. Hanwha life. 7 seconds for Zeka, but how much of an impact will his ult really make? It hasn't been his day here. It hasn't been his game.
Yeah, there's the Ram once again. It is the ulti from Peanut, but not able to interrupt the call of the Forge God. Now Doran doing a lot of work with his scissors as Peanut able to get back, but that's not a reset for Viper. Just barely not able to get it done, and the Yone falls down. It's Oner that locks that one up, and now it's his turn to pop up in the fight. Faker finds a triple just immediately, and T1 moved